All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, two teams that were ranked in the top 10 to begin this college basketball season are the last two standing. Tomorrow night in the desert, either the Purdue Boilermakers are going to win their first national championship in the program's history while ending the Big Ten's championship drought, which dates back to 2000 when Michigan State won, or the Connecticut Huskies are going to become the first program since Florida back in 2007 to run it back, while it would also be championship number 6 for the Huskies. So you look at tomorrow night's game, and one of the big questions is which style is going to win out? I mean, Purdue under head coach Matt Painter, they have a reputation of being slow, but it's one of those where Purdue's been able to pick it up this year at times. But on the flip side, for the Huskies, UConn is one of those they're kind of like a sports car. They could be doing 40 miles an hour in traffic, but then on that open road, they know how to set the pace and turn it up to about 75. And for me, the Huskies have shown the last couple of years that they are a second half team and they have that spurt ability. We've seen it, at times in this tournament for Connecticut, and even dating back to the Big East tournament, they had a close game at the half in the championship game with Marquette before they took things over in the second round. We saw that run against the Illini in the Elite Eight, and then, of course, last night in the second half against Alabama, taking a close game and putting it out of reach for the most part. So you look at that, but then also the battle of the bigs. You're talking about Donovan Clingan for Connecticut, and of course Zach Edey for UConn. And Zach Edey has just been dominating throughout this tournament, throughout this year. For the Boilermakers, but especially here in this tournament. 30-21 in the first game against Grambling in round number one, 23-14 against Utah State in round number two, 27-14 against Gonzaga in the Sweet 16, 40-16 against Tennessee in the Elite Eight, and then 20-12 last night against NC State. But you look at Donovan Clingan, and it's one of those where the big fella is more than just a cog in a wheel. And this is going to be very important because these two guys have dominated for their respective teams so far in this tournament, but they have not really faced anybody with the size that they're going to see tomorrow night. Of course, Zach Edey being 7'4", and Donovan Clingan being 7'2". So my big thing is when you see two big guys like that, are the refs going to allow them to play? That's the big thing. We've seen sometimes this year where referees have a tight whistle when it comes to Purdue. What's going to happen here in the championship game? That's going to be very telling for this contest. But it's not just about Klingon and it's not just about Edie for Connecticut and Purdue, respectively. It's all about the guys around them as well. And you think about this UConn team, they have so many interchangeable parts, and one of these guys can get hot and just take over. You think about Tristan Newton, you think about Alex Caravan, you think about Cam Spencer, you think about Stephen Castle, you think about Hassan Diarra. Any one of these guys can, get into a rhythm and just take the game over. But then the supporting cast for Purdue, the guard play, and that's important, and that has been important for the Boilers in this run to the championship game with the likes of Braden Smith and Lance Jones and Fletcher Lawyer, their play as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see the contrast. Danny Hurley, one of the best coaches in the game right now, and he's looking for championship number 2 tomorrow night. And Matt Painter, I think, has flown under the radar a little bit, and it's due to the fact that Purdue has come up short in the recent years in the NCAA tournament. And of course, people only remember you, unfortunately, by the championships that you win or do not win. And I think this is a good opportunity for Matt Painter to take that next step, not just for him, but his program as well. Now, people, the casual fan, will just say, well, they need a championship. But, a hardcore, college basketball fan will tell you that Matt Painter has done a solid job of establishing his program and his vision at West Lafayette for the Purdue Boilermakers. And I think it's just a win tomorrow would be the cherry on top. And then on the flip side for Dan Hurley, you would have the opportunity to be a part of something special where some of the game's greats have been able to say that they've been able to coach back-to-back championships. Coach K did it with Duke, of course. The great John Wooden at UCLA, Billy Donovan at Florida are three guys that come to mind right off the bat as far as being able to go to back to back. And I will say this about Dan Hurley: Dan Hurley really has his finger on the pulse of his team. UConn is favored tomorrow night, but I guarantee you Dan Hurley will sell his team on the fact that nobody respects us. It's us against the world. Everybody wants to see Purdue win, and he's going to have his team ready to play tomorrow night. Which coaches are going to have to make adjustments? That is going to be the interesting thing right here. Can UConn still be successful against Purdue if Donovan Clingan gets in foul trouble? I think they can just because they do have some depth, at the position with the likes of Samson Johnson. Not He's tall, yes, but he's not as big weight wise as Donovan Clingan, so that could be an advantage, clearly for Purdue right there. But I think it's one of those where if Connecticut were to get in foul trouble with Clingan, I think they would go small and try to speed up Purdue. Maybe have to put maybe making Edey have to be on the perimeter a little bit more to open things up. That could be a possibility there. On the flip side, if Edey gets in foul trouble, is there a plan B for Purdue against this Connecticut team? I don't think so, because if Edey goes out with foul trouble tomorrow night, you have a scenario where I think the floodgates are going to open up for the Huskies. UConn is favored in this game by 6.5. And I think it's one of those where I think this is going to be a tight game for the most part. Clearly, you're going to see runs, but I do see Connecticut pulling away in the final 4 to 5 minutes to get out of Arizona with their second consecutive national championship. It's going to be a thriller, and it definitely will be must see TV tomorrow night between the Boilermakers and the Huskies. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.